Hello, 你好，欢迎回来。Welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny, Tiger, and Kitten is in the kitchen. So we are filming out of the training room window today because Kitten is doing something at the sink, washing dishes like a good woman. No, okay, don't hate, don't hate. We take turns sometimes, yeah, you know. So today is September 13, 2023. And we are going to talk about midlife crisis. Midlife crisis. This topic actually came up when Kitten and I were having a conversation just last week, and we were talking about like when do men have their midlife crisis and when do women have midlife crisis. Um, Interestingly enough, if you guys never thought about this before, for most men, midlife crisis is career or profession related or triggered, while for most women, midlife crisis is biologically triggered. So, they start thinking about the fading beauty or their body changing shape or they're not having kids or they have too many kids and stuff like that. That is more like a female version of midlife crisis. In Mandarin, midlife crisis is called 中年危机. 中, Jong, means middle, nian, Nian means age, 中年, middle age, 危机, uh, 危机 means danger sense, feeling threatened. Uh, so 中年危机 means midlife crisis. So there, it's not just a white people thing, not just here in America. 中年危机 happened in China too. And in fact, 中年危机 has been pretty much a staple of humankind throughout history. So today, we're going to take a look at several Chinese figures throughout the ages to illustrate that yes, even people back then had 中年危机. Unlike a lot of sociologists or psychologists that want to say, well, 中年危机or midlife crisis happened because of the pressure of today's lifestyle and too much internet, too much video game, too little socialization, yada yada yada. No, I have nothing to do with it. Midlife crisis just happened. Like it's been there throughout history. The reason can be always different, but 中年危机 or midlife crisis has always been there. As far back as Confucian era, uh, when Confucius was around, Confucius has already written extensively addressing uh, midlife crisis, 中年危机, and its various facets and effect, and how things should be, how people should be, to avoid falling into the debt trap of 中年危机 or midlife crisis. Of course, Confucius liked to tell you what to do. That's just what Confucius liked to do. He liked to tell people what to do. So, according to Confucius, to live your life properly without falling into 中年危机, you need to set a goal when you are in your 30s. So when you are in your 30s, you make up your mind where do you want to go. By the time you are in your 40s, there should be very little question or confusion in your life. And then by the time you're in your 50s, then you come to term and you accept whatever is happening to you. So basically, you make a decision in your 30s. When you're in your 40s, you should have no doubt as in your decision. And when you're in your 50s, you accept the consequences of your decision. That is a road that Confucius laid out for people. Is that a little bit too simple? Maybe easier said than done? Yeah, sure. But you know, uh, that is words from a saint. So take it however you would. But just that little bit kind of illustrate to us that even back then, 3,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, 3,000 years ago, people were having issues dealing with midlife crisis. And what comes with uh, when you turn your 30s and 40s, and that confused, dejected, disappointed feeling you get when you lay there late at night thinking, my God, is this it? Am I never going to be as great as I thought I would be? Now, to state the obvious, there's really only three things to do, three decisions you can come to when plagued by midlife crisis. And these three changes are: one, stay true to your course. No matter how impossible it seems, no matter how bad a decision you might have made, it is a decision you made. You just follow that road till the very end. You stay stubborn, stay true to your belief, and you walk this road to the end. That is number one. Number two is that you change course. You are willing, you're okay saying, okay, I messed up, or okay, things didn't work as I thought it would, and you do a plot change, and let's try another way. This is way number two. Uh, way number three. The third one, probably the worst decision you can make, is to be wishy-washy and waver on the spot. Some people, when they get to a point where they feel uh, things are not working out as I think they should, things are not working out at all, uh, they want to continue, but they are scared to continue. They're scared to be disappointed. They want to change, and they're scared to change. And you remember the old cliche: the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. So people are scared. What if I change and things just get worse? So, uh, like a lot of people trapped in really bad relationship, these people, they want to change, but they don't want to change, and they just end up wasting the rest of their life, wavering here, wavering there, wishy-washy. And usually, this is the worst decision you can make because you will end up making some really awful compromises and waste a lot of your life just trying to stay afloat. So today, we're going to draw upon some ancient Chinese figures and look at some of the representatives have to use these ways to deal with midlife crisis. The first example, we are going to look at a guy who stayed true to his belief until the bitter end, despite his midlife crisis. Um, This guy's name was Xin Jijin, Xin Jinji. This is really hard even for me to pronounce, so we'll just call him Xin, right? Just so I don't keep tripping up. Xin Jinji. For those of you who really know your Chinese history, because this is a little bit of a deep dive, even for me. Uh, those of you who really know your Chinese literature and history, you will recognize Qin Ji as a poet, a very patriotic poet in the Southern Song Dynasty. Um, but what most people don't know is that Xin not only was or not was just a poet. In fact, writing poetry was just a pastime for Xin. Right? Xin Jinji was one of Southern Song Dynasty's most patriotic military general, and he was a great warrior to boot. So this was a guy who was both a poet and a warrior, either with a pen in his hand or quill back then, either with a quill and parchment or a sword and shield. He was unstoppable. Now you heard me right. I said Southern Song Dynasty. What was that about? A lot of people know about the Song Dynasty, but if you don't know your Chinese history, you might not know that there were actually two Song dynasties. At first, Song Dynasty was Northern Song Dynasty, but then uh, the northern barbarians, we'll just call them the Jin people, they invaded China and kicked the crap out of the Song dynasty. And the emperor of the Song dynasty actually had to pick up everything and run away to southern China and set up shop there. So basically left the entire northern part of the country for the Jin people to set up their own dynasty called the Jin dynasty. Um, so then the Song dynasty officially became the Southern Song dynasty because the emperor ran away and set up another capital city in the south. So Northern Song Dynasty came first, and then when they got their butt kicked by the Jin people, they moved south and set up the Southern Song Dynasty. Confused yet? Well, I know it is confusing, but I need to get that straight for you to understand the life of Xin Jinji, our our guy that we are talking about, our poet and general. So Xin Jinji's father passed away very early on. So Xin Jinji was raised by his grandfather, Xin Shang. Xin Shang was a magistrate, a government official during the original Northern Song dynasty. When the Jin people defeated the Song army, and the Song dynasty and the emperor ran away to set up shop in southern China. Uh, Xin Jinji's grandfather Xin Zhang, because of various reasons, his business, his friends, his family, he couldn't go south with his emperor, so he got left behind and was forced to serve under the new leadership of the Jin people. This made him very unhappy. So every day when he came home from work, he would uh, he would lecture his grandson Xin Jinji. He would tell the little Xin Jinji, said, "You need to grow up and serve your country. Always remember, you are a member of the Song Dynasty. You are Chinese. You are not Jin people. You're not one of the Jin people. So you always remember that. And when you can, you always want to avenge our country. You need to kill as many of them as you can." Yeah, that kind of brainwashing is horrible. Okay, just as a side note, a lot of parents today still do that to their kids, and if you find yourself do that to your kids, please stop. Your kid is not responsible for realizing your dream or fixing your mistakes. Okay, don't put that kind of pressure onto your kids. Let them be their own people. But anyway, Xin Jinji's grandfather did that to him his entire childhood. So Xin Jinji grew up uh, with this goal in mind. He had this goal in his head that he's going to grow up and with his sword, he's going to kill as many Jin people as he could. He's going to fight Jin people until the day he died. And in fact, when he was in his uh, late teens, he ran away from home and he joined one of the rebel guerrilla armies that was put together by a Chinese general that also was left, didn't get to go south, and so he was left north, and now he's like a bandit. Got a group of men, and they were constantly raid and pillage the Jin cities and villages to kill Jin people, to avenge Chinese people. So Xin Jinji ran away and joined them. So at least part of his goal became reality. He got to kill a lot of Jin people and avenge a lot of Chinese people. But then Xin Jinji, he said, we can't just be a rebel force for the rest of our life. We need to be bigger. So what we need to do is we need to hook up with the Chinese emperor. We need to hook up with the southern Song dynasty and let them christen us to become part of the imperial military. Then we can kill as many Jin people as we want, and it's all legal. So long story short, Xin Jinji actually got them uh, hooked up with he rode south to southern China and was able to get a royal decree from the Song Dynasty emperor and uh, award them to be loyal Song uh, military men and allow them to serve under the Song banner. Beyond that, even when he was only 22 years old, Xin Jinji was able to rush into the camp of a traitor. There was the general that he was serving under got murdered by a traitor who ran away to join the Jin uh, dynasty. So Xin Jinji, when he heard that, he was so pissed off. He chose 50 men to go with him. So himself, including the 50 men, the 51 of them, stormed the camp of this traitor. Uh, this traitor had like 20,000 people in his in his troop. So 51 of them stormed the camp of 20,000 people and actually was able to capture this traitor. And not only that, Xin Jinji, him and his patriotism and his honor was able to convince almost 10,000 of this traitor's uh, henchmen to join up with the Song Dynasty army. So 51 of them went into this 20,000 people military camp, captured their leader, and convinced 10,000 of them to go home with them. Yeah, like I said, a lot of people who even heard of Xin Jinji as a poet don't know how great a warrior he was. So now Shinjinji is like the superstar in the eye of the Song Dynasty emperor. And the emperor at that time was still young and very impulsive, and his head was filled with, I need to reclaim my country, I need to go back north and kick those Jin people out of China. And suddenly, Xin Jinji, this great military general, is like, yes, your majesty, between you and I, we can do this. So the emperor said, okay, let's go get it done. So the emperor and his new most favorite general, Xin Jinji, decided to go north and attack the Jin Empire. And sadly, it didn't work. And because as much as they were patriotic and they were very dedicated and they were brave and whatever, the fact of the matter was, after getting their butt handed to them in the previous war, the Song dynasty no longer had the military resources or might to even compete against the Jin Empire. So, after a few of these failed campaigns, the emperor came to his senses and said, "Hey, wait, let's not do that again. We can't beat them. Okay, let's just stay south, and we'll stay south, and they can stay north, and that's fine. That's fine. Forget about reclaiming the north. It's not going to happen." Shinjinji was going to have none of it. You got to remember, this is a guy who, when he was 22 years old, he rode and attacked 20,000 men with only 50 men on his side, and he succeeded. So Shinjinji was like, no, we can't quit. We have to keep attacking them until we succeed. We have to avenge all the Chinese people. We have to kill all the Jin people in the world. And the emperor basically pat him on the head and said, look, my favorite general, my pet, you are, I know you are great. I know you want to kill Jin people. I know you are a good guy. But the fact of it is, we can't get it done. Okay? Deal with it. Let's not talk about this again. So Shinjinji, rather than obeying the emperor, went home and kind of went into depression and went through his midlife crisis. He wrote a poem at this point in his life, in his early 30s, and the poem basically talked about how he was able to see hope for only a split second, but now the hope is taken away, and now he is left in the dark. He no longer know what is going to happen, what his destiny should be. But after a few months of uh, feeling sorry for himself, Shin Jinji decided to come to our first conclusion what, that we were talking about. He decided he's going to stick to his gun. The hell with the emperor. The hell with you all. If you are not going to help me fight the Jin people, I'm going to do it myself. So he started uh, purchasing horses and weapons and put together his own mercenary group so he could go north on his own to attack the Jin people all on his own. Now, by this time, the Song dynasty, in fear of the Jin dynasty, has already signed a peace treaty with the Jin dynasty. So when the emperor heard that Xin Jinji was putting together his own military to go attack the Jin dynasty, the emperor tried to talk him out of it, but he wouldn't listen. So the emperor exiled him, took away his wealth, took away his uh, general status, and basically exiled him. Through the rest of his life, Shinjinji has many, many times been brought back to court to serve the emperor, but many, many times he would be exiled again because as soon as he started to uh, have a little bit of influence, he tried to convince people to go attack the Jin people up north. He did this all the way until when he passed away at the age of 68. When he passed away, when he was laying on his deathbed, his last words were still about killing as many Jin people as he could. So you see, Shinjinji was a classic example of someone who went through hardship, went through failure, halfway through life, ran into midlife crisis, went through depression, and then decided, okay, you know what the hell with it. I'm going to stick to my gun no matter what. And he did that all the way to the end. Our second uh, possibility, the second thing we mentioned when you are faced with midlife crisis, is to call it quit. Okay, things are not working out. Let's see what we need to change. Let's change course. Honestly, uh, for me personally, I feel that if unless you're willing to face the possibility, you're okay with okay, if I try my best and things still don't work out, I'm still going to keep doing it, and I'm okay if things still don't work out. If you're okay with that, then you can do number one, just stick to your gun. But otherwise, if you're not okay with failures, you're not okay with things not working out, then number two is probably the best solution. Just change. Stop. Stop. Stop what you're doing. It's not working out. Change course. There's no shame in that, really. When I was younger, I used to feel that this is like quitter, pants on fire kind of mentality. Like you can't be a quitter. But as I get a little bit older, what I start to understand is you know, all of us have a very limited amount of time in this world. There's no time to be stubborn, right? If things are not working, then they're not working. It's okay. Just change do something else. Yeah, do something else that make you happy. That change. And there's a very good example in Chinese history that we could draw upon as well. Now we're going to go to the end of Ming Dynasty, and there's a very, very good scholar by the name of Li Xianru. Li Xianru, this is a good name. Like his name literally means Li the immortal. Okay, Xianru basically means immortal, angel, God, whatever. Uh, Li Xianru was one of those genius that everybody thought he was going to do really good with the imperial exam. In fact, by the time he was 21, he was already on the top 10 of the imperial exam. So everybody thought that this guy would have a great future. He grew up just like our poor Shinjinji, being brainwashed by his family. In the case of Shinjinji, it was his grandfather brainwashing him into thinking that he had to kill as many Jin people as he could. In the case of Li Xianru, because his family for 8 or 9 generations had never produced a scholar, so his parents really brainwashed him into that you are our only hope. You are the only one in this whole family that have ever shown uh, promises and ever shown great intelligence. So it is your duty to bring uh, pride to the family and to pass the imperial exam. You need to be a great scholar, and nothing else is going to be enough. If you don't make the family proud, then you will be disgraced. All that yada yada yada. Like he grew up listening to that. So, like I said, when he's 21, he already got selected to be top 10 in the imperial exam. However, that was basically the end of his road. Every single exam he tried after that, he never got to that height ever again. In his 30, he failed the exam. In his 35, he failed another exam. And just no matter how hard he studied, wasn't happening. This wasn't going to happen. And what made matters even worse was this was right at the end of the Ming Dynasty when the Qing Dynasty took over, when the Manchu people invaded China and took over China. Now, how would that impact Li Xinrui's life? Well, imagine this: you spend your whole life studying for this imperial exam run by the Ming Empire or the Ming government. So you know what they're looking for. You know the kind of materials you need to study on. But suddenly, oops, Ming Dynasty is no more. Now it's the Qing Dynasty, the Manchu people from the north, and they don't go by the same curriculum, which means everything you studied beforehand, no good. You need to start all over. Li Xianru, 35 years old by this time, very, very depressed. Went into a bit of alcoholism, wrote a lot of poetry, writing about how he felt he was a failure and all that stuff. But then it's almost like one door closed and another door opened for him. He decided to quit Imperial exam altogether. He decided, the hell with this. I'm not going to be a scholar anymore. And very symbolically, he got a name change. He changed his name from Li Xianru to Li Yu. Some of you that know your Chinese literature will instantly recognize the name Li Yu as the first ever popular author in Chinese history. And this is funny because his original name means Xianru, means immortal, God, angel, a gift from the heaven. And he changed his name to Yu, means fish. So it's like he's telling the world, I'm not a genius like all of you thought I was. I'm not that special. I don't want to be immortal anymore. I'm going to be a fish. I'm no longer Li Xianlu. I'm going to be Li Yu from here on. And he took all the studying, everything that he's read, all the knowledge he had, and he started writing storybooks. Yeah, and he became the first person in Chinese history, 5,000 years of Chinese history. He became the first person, the first ever popular author, storyteller, uh, and he was the first person to have his own publishing agency under his name. He was the first person that every time he wrote a book, within a few weeks, even people from thousands of miles away would have owned a copy of his storybook. His stories were exciting and scary and adventuresome. Now, to be an author in today's day and age is a good thing, right? Like we think someone being an author, wow, that's so cool. Back then, to be an author was a career that was frowned upon. If you were a scholar and you wrote storybook, you would be thought of as the person who sold his soul to the devil. Like you betrayed your craft. How dare you take all that learning from Confucius and Mencius and all those saints, all those great scholars? How dare you take their words and turn them into children's stories? Back then, to do what Li Xianyu or Li Yu, to do what Li Yu did was extremely daring. But because he was willing to quit the this road that was going nowhere, which was being a scholar, he was willing to admit defeat. He opened a new door and became basically the granddaddy of all modern Chinese storybook authors. So you see, sometimes quitting is really not that bad. If you know what you're doing not working, it's okay. Find something else that works. The third and last possibility we talked about when you're faced with midlife crisis, and like I said, this one's like the worst decision you can make, is to be wishy-washy. You want to change, but you don't want to change, so you end up changing a little bit and not changing other spot, and you make weird compromises. When you start doing that, sometimes the result gets very disappointing. You might still get the result, but the result is going to be so foo-foo, so lame that you might as well quit while you were ahead. A classic example of this one comes from a Tang Dynasty scholar by the name of Yang Zheng. We'll just call him Yang. Yang, again, for those of you who know Chinese history, you know there were four saints, four greatest scholars from Tang Dynasty, and Yang Zheng was one of them. Um, Yang, just like Li Xianyu, grew up to be one of the prodigy child, like protege child. Like he was child prodigy all the way through. He was so smart that by the time he was 11, get this, 11 years old, he was already appointed to be the secretary for one member of the royal family. Yeah, that's not a very high rank. It's only like rank number nine, like one of the lowest rank of uh, government officials. But at age 11, like how smart do you have to be at age 11 for a royal household, like for a royal member to want you to be their secretary, right? That's crazy. So Yang Zheng grew up to be super intelligent, wrote a lot of great articles and poems. Um, his goal in life was to be a high ranking government official to be able to serve his country. And he was unwilling to compromise the entire way. He was unwilling to take bribe. He was unwilling to kowtow to higher rank people. Um, One time he was asked by a friend. This friend said, "Hey, Yang, you're only rank 9. You're the lowest rank of all the officials. How come when you talk to those high ranking ministers, you are able to raise your voice? You're able to look them in the eye. How dare you?" And Yang said, "You are only looking at their clothes and their rank and their hat. When I see them, all I see are fake killings." Now, I'm going to segue out of this a little bit here to tell you what that means. Fake killing is a very indirect way of insulting somebody. Um, Killing, as some of you know, is a Chinese legendary animal right up there with dragon, turtle, phoenix. So the original four saint beasts are dragon, phoenix, turtle, Keeling. So Keeling is that thing that looks kind of like a uh, hybrid of a lion and a dragon and a deer or a giraffe. Uh, that thing. Uh, I believe it was even shown during the Legend of the Ten Ring, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Ring. I think there was a killing in there. Um, so traditionally, when when people were putting on stage performance, they obviously, if they need to have a killing, that they wouldn't have a real killing, right? So to get a killing on stage, what they do is they take a big piece of cowhide and paint it to look like the a hide of a killing, and then they put that on a donkey, so that donkey can look like a killing on stage. So when Yang tell his friend that all these high-ranking ministers were just fake killings, he's calling them donkeys. So that's the kind of person he was. He was unwilling to compromise, no matter how high-ranking they were. And because of that personality flaw, he spent most of his life stuck being rank 9. It's a very low rank. He never got a promotion because he was not nice to people. He was unwilling to compromise. But he wouldn't quit. He kept wanting to stick it out because he believed that as long as he was doing the right thing, he would be high ranking one day. Well, unfortunate for him, uh, when he was in his mid 30s, his cousin and his uncle happened to be involved in a rebellion against the government, and they were executed. And as a result of that, even though Yang himself was not involved in the rebellion, the Tang emperors Wu Zitang uh, decided that he was related to the rebels, so she had him exiled. After he was exiled, Yang went into depression and went through midlife crisis and really asking these questions like, oh, am I really serving the right country? Do, is this this really what I want to do? Do I still want to try to be a government official? Is that really worth it? I've been doing this my whole life, and look what they did to me. So he asked all these questions. But then he made the mistake of he said, yes, I still want to be a government official. I'm not going to quit. But maybe I've been doing this wrong. Maybe I should be more ass kissing. Maybe I should be more compromising and be willing to kowtow to more people. So he decided that he still wants to be a government official, but he's going to start sucking up to people. So he started writing letters and poems and articles, basically sucking up to the empress, writing about how great the empress was, how beautiful she was, how amazing she was. He kept this up. And then finally one day the empress decided, hey, you know this young guy, he's kind of nice. He's been writing a lot of nice things about me. So the empress decided to uh, give him a seat in the government. Yang was so happy when he heard that finally he was going to become a government official again after being exiled. But to his horror and disappointment, the empress made him the magistrate of a small county seat. Not even a town, just a county. He was a magistrate of a small area. And Yang was so disappointed. Wow, I made all these compromises, and this is all I get. I'm lower rank than I used to be. So after he became the magistrate, within 1 year, he got depressed and got into alcohol, and he died within a year. So as you see, sometimes it's much better to just do a course correction than to stick it out and waver and drop your principles and then making some weird compromises, because the result you get is not going to be good when you start doing that. When you start compromising your principle and belief, when you start compromising your fundamental truth of what you are, who you are, then the result you get usually won't be very good. Thank you for checking out today's Wisdom Wednesday. We'll be back again tomorrow for some Toy Thursday. For now, 谢谢 and 再见。